Good evening, everyone. This is Naveen and I'm from StarAgile. Welcome to today's webinar on how Kanban will help you grow in your career. Without any further delay, I would like to forward this to Ms. Shuchi Singla. She'll take care of it. Thank you.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We are able to hear you.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so guys, let me just quickly introduce myself first and then probably we'll just set some ground rules. I am Shuchi Singla. I am CEO and founder of company called as Bafflesol Technologies and a mobile app called as Outfluence. I am also an enterprise agile coach and I have been into agile space from almost 9 years now and have coached and consulted companies starting from banks to service based industry to manufacturing, and even law firms. So this is a very brief introduction about me. I would like to make this presentation very interactive, so in case if you have questions, please unmute yourself and ask, or maybe raise a hand and or ask a question. Works?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, before we start, I just would want to understand, what do you understand by Kanban and what is the kind of experience you have? If you can, just raise your hand or maybe one of you can unmute and, help me understand a bit about your expertise. It will help me, for the session. Anyone? Rohini, Shweta, Neha, Vaibhav,
Yeah. Hi. Hi, Sruchi.
Shuchi.
Yeah. Hi, Sruchi.
Hmm. So, do you have any expertise in uh, Kanban? Do you know what is Kanban and how is it different from Scrum? Do you understand that?
No, no. Actually, when I talk about particular myself, I don't have any experience in Kanban.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody in the group who has experience of working in Kanban or maybe understands a bit about Kanban?
Hi, Suchi. This is Shweta. I have not. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, yeah, Shweta, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So I have not worked with Kanban, but I know that there is some differences in Kanban and Scrum. Like in Scrum, we have a fixed timelines. Like we have sprints, but in Kanban we don't have anything kind of sprints. We in Kanban board we are having something called WIP, so that we can limit the number of items in hand and focus on the items only. It also gives you a visualize, I mean, the things which are currently in hand, visualize picture of that work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, there are few more, but like I've not
That's
worked
okay.
in Kanban, but yeah, something like this I know.
Yeah, yeah, it's good to start. So let's just get started. So let me just briefly talk about the agenda. Today we will talk about what Kanban is. I will get you introduced to the basic concepts and principles of the Kanban. We will also talk about how Kanban is different from Scrum, because typically when we talk about Agile, what uh, typical way of understanding Agile is only Scrum, but how it is different from Kanban, we'll just touch base that topic. Then future of Kanban in India and how Kanban can accelerate your career and how it can add value to your career. We will briefly touch that topic and then it will be an open house. But in case while we are discussing all the agenda, in case if you have questions, please raise your hand, ask questions, but one by one. Don't rush into it. Okay? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Sruchi.
Yeah. So let's first introduce word Kanban. So Kanban is nothing but it's a Japanese word where Can means visual, and ban means board. So anything which is on a visual board is a Kanban system, right? It's a Japanese term, and it was first introduced by Toyota for the manufacturing process, and then David Anderson brought it into the IT world as well, and he used those principles from a manufacturing world to fit into the software industry. Kanban is one of the ways of implementing, or maybe I would not implementing, but easing out project management where you can visualize your work, you can limit the work in progress, and you can maximize your efficiency. Now, when I talk about visualization of work, basically the major problem that we have is we are doing so much in our life, since all of us are now working from home. We have kids to look after, we have a lot of work to do for home, we have so much so for office, and office hours have typically vanished away. That 9 to 6 kind of a job has just gone away because everybody is now available all the time, right? And with so much work, we tend to forget the work. It will help you give structure to your work, help you prioritize your work, and it will make you so efficient that you understand the first things which are important needs to be delivered first. Can you please mute yourself or put your phone on silent? Okay. Second point, that I spoke about was limit work in progress. Typically, psychologically, we consider that as a human being, we cannot do more than two work in parallel efficiently. So, for example, if I'm standing in a kitchen, I'm cooking, I'm trying to draft an email, and probably I also start feeding my child. One of these three things will be done very inefficiently, or I would not meet the quality standard. Probably when I'm cooking, I might forget the salt, or maybe I'll add extra salt, something or other thing would happen, right? But if I'm doing two things at a time, it would be still very much efficient, and I would be able to do justice to that. So it is very important to multitask, but to limit that multitasking. Psychologically, at a given point of time, we should not pick more than two things. So it will also help you limit work in progress. How? I will show you as we move ahead. And maximize efficiency. Obviously, increase in efficiency is the byproduct when you know what all needs to be delivered, and you are delivering all the work with a better quality, and at the right time, the efficiency by default increases. Any questions till now? Okay.
Yeah, Suchi. Sorry. I just had one question, Suchi. When we say here that we can limit the work in progress,
Mm-hmm.
so when I try to correlate it with Scrum, does it mean that here you have the capability or the advantage of reducing the sprint for your work, or prioritizing the work that you have in your how should I say, project backlog or sprint backlog, something of that sort?
Yes, so basically, we are here saying that we will prioritize and pick up the work which is more important. Let's say, see, there is never a scenario where everything is important. Whatever we have in plate is important. There is always a priority. So if we say that, okay, psychologically, I will not pick to do more than two things at a time, I am limiting my work in progress limit, and basis that I will prioritize. Okay, if I have to do only two things, which is most important? You start thinking that ways.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, Suchi.
Okay. Abhijit, you had a question.
Actually, I had one question, but I think that the answer to this question could be organization to organizational, because we used to work in Kanban dashboard where we
Mm-hmm.
used to have this WIP limit, but there was a limit on this working process progress tickets. Like only few of the tickets were brought into uh, in progress column, so there was limit. So in in order to in the context of working simultaneously or working concurrently on uh, two different objects at the same time, my question was related to that. So does Kanban allow, or this framework allow to work simultaneously, or it is one object per at time? What is the particular-
One object at it, so you will not act on two things at a time, right? You will
right?
work on one thing at a time, but for you, something which you're currently working. So for example, let's say I am taking this webinar and probably I might be responding to an email at the back end, you know,
Okay,
but I will first do this webinar and then conduct. Probably that email might be opened and I might be processing some information that I need, but I might not be actually acting on it.
okay,
Yeah, that thing. Yeah. Okay. Moving ahead, when we talk about Kanban to visualize work, to limit work in progress, eventually increase the efficiency, there are five components that are needed to build the Kanban system: visual signals, columns, work in progress limit, a commitment point, and a delivery point. When I say a commitment, so visual signals is nothing but the work that I need to do, and something that I that signals that to move it ahead. I will explain you these things once we move ahead, but just to give you a high level idea, work in progress limit is something that we have already spoken about. A commitment point is when I say that, okay, now I have accepted this work and now I will work it. So for example, your boss comes and tells you that you need to work on it. Till the time you don't acknowledge that, okay, I would be working on it, is you have not committed to the work, right? And then the delivery point, how, what is the end point of it, or maybe how do you call that work done? That's the delivery point. Now let's look ahead and let me just quickly show you how does this work. Now this is a typical uh, Kanban board that we have. If you look at it, this is these cards, the green, purple, and the pink cards. These are your visual signals, right? This complete Kanban board is a Kanban system where the signal is that this is ready to be moved ahead. So, for example, now let's assume if you see after development, this is written as 3. So this means as a development team, we will not work on more than 3 things at a time. Now, how is this taken into consideration? So, as I told you, psychologically, a very basic thumb rule. This is not what Kanban says. This is more on a, a hit and trial method that works best. If a single person can do maximum of 2 things. So if you have 2 developers, so at a given point of time for your development team, the WIP limit will be either 4, or if it is a new team, you are still struggling, it is a new project, you are still trying to understand, you can put it as 3. Okay. After development is done, the piece of code that has been developed will move to code review. After code review, the testing happens, and then finally the deployment and done. Right? Deployment could be when the customer gives you done will be when your customer gives you a sign off. So every project will have a workflow. Obviously, since we have a limited time period, I cannot talk about how workflows are identified, how this flow is created. I can just give you a brief idea. So a typical development IT industry software development project will have, you will have a backlog, then you will do development, then code review, then testing, deployment, and done. And for each lane you have for entry and exit criteria which define the parameters. Okay, any questions till
Suchi,
now?
yeah, Suchi, Ayyappan here. So, Suchi, you're saying team one, team two, team three. So, team one is nothing but how many persons is involved. So, what is the strength of what is the
There is
strength
no
of the
limit to
team?
that. A team could be a basic any team, right? So this is basically a program level board where multiple teams are working on a same project. It can be just single team board as well. It can be 5 members, 6 members. See, Kanban is not like Scrum where you have a limitation, you have a roles defined, you have a limitation on count of team members as well. You say that team members should not exceed more than 7 or 8 people, and then you should have certain roles within the Scrum. So Kanban says start from where you are. Right, it says we don't need any roles defined, only focus on first thing is to understand your workflow and start making your work visual using this board. Rest, once you start doing it, other things will follow. Right, whenever you have to start the Scrum, so team size is not limited, it can be whatever the current team size you have.
Okay, so as you said, only 2 items at a time we can take. That is a per person or per team?
Per person.
Per person. Okay. Mhm. So the to-do list, there is a column, right? To-do. So to-do, is there any limitations? Like I can say I'm just comparing with a sprint. Okay, there is some epics are there. So that you are meaning it to-do list or something else?
Yes, yes. So you to do, if you are still working in the sprint, Scrum, and you're implementing your Kanban to bring the visualization, your to do will be your sprint backlog, right? If you are doing at a program level, then your program backlog of all the three teams will become your to do list, because these three teams in, see, it gets more complicated as we talk, but within the program level it could also have the dependencies, right? So currently this is for the, if from a team level you're talking, it is just the sprint backlog, but if you talk from a program perspective where multiple teams are working on a similar kind of a project, then it will be a program backlog.
So this is a story, user story, or it is a kind of some
Can be anything. At a
sleep
team
wheel
level,
or
it will,
something.
yeah, at a team level, it will be a user story, but at a program level, it can be feature, it can be epic, whatever. Kanban can be implemented at every level.
Suchi, one question here. So, in case Kanban, we are implementing Kanban in the project. So, we could have multiple board, one for the management, one for the teams, like that, or it will be a
What
one.
what what information do you want to show in the management board?
Like you said, epic and features. If you want to,
Yes.
if you don't want to see user stories at management level, we can show the features and epics only.
Yes, you can do that.
Okay.
Suchi, I'm sorry again. So Kanban is leading more documentation work.
No.
No, then how, where I'll get the requirement and how I'll maintain the requirement.
See, so obviously this is a very basic information that we are giving you as part of this webinar. But this, as she asked the right question, for the management, if you're talking about features, a feature will break down into the epic. So for example, for a management, if you have created an epic board and it will have an in progress field, your that particular feature which is in progress, when it comes to a team level, will break down into multiple user stories. Obviously you will have to link them back, right? It's a diverse and it's a very vast topic. I can spend almost 5 days talking about it, but this is
No,
how it
Suchi,
is.
I'm sorry, for the benefit of everyone on the board over here, I think you should not go into these kind of details like requirements and all that. You should just avoid that and take it up later, because I think it's better you stick to the core part of the Kanban part just to understand
Sure,
the framework.
sure, sure. So but just to give you a very high level idea, this is how the Kanban board is designed. You figure out your workflow and you create a Kanban board and you decide how it moves. So for example, for to do, from to do, you will have your to do. If at a team level, you will have your sprint backlog in the to do thing. Then you develop code review, testing, deployment, and done. And each column, each row will have the entry and the exit criteria, which will define the quality parameter. Okay. Now,
Suchi, I have a basic question here. The team one consists of developers, testers together, or like only one
yes,
person can engage team one and do everything.
Yes, it's a cross-functional team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I told you in the previous slide, the key principles of Kanban are start with what you have. Kanban, unlike Scrum, does not ask you to define roles. It doesn't have any. It doesn't ask you to define product owner, Scrum master, cross-functional team. It says if you have a basic waterfall team, start with an agenda to make your work visual, and to bring into the transparency to the system. Start with what you have. Don't uh, it doesn't say that, okay, if we have to bring in the Kanban system, if you have to use a Kanban system, we will have to bring in some change which will need a lot of approvals from the leadership. It doesn't need anything. It says just understand your current process, make your current process visual, start with what you have as of now, right? Once you start doing it, right, you would start to realize that there are certain changes and certain improvements that you need to make in your system. For example, probably you might, from when you pick up a work for development from your to-do list, you would realize that, okay, a lot of times there are approvals are missing, you need to have those approvals. So you obviously automatically start with the evolutionary and incremental change. So improvements start to happen by default. Okay, right? And you should have an open mind as a team to accept those improvements. To begin with, there might be disagreements. It is a journey, obviously, from doing to being. You might have to pursue people, but at least people who have agreed to implement the Kanban system should have an open mind that there will be an improvement which will come, and there would be certain things which we might to change. So you should be open towards that change. Third, respect the current process, roles, and responsibilities. Obviously, since we are not bringing in any new role, we are not changing the R&R of any people. There is no, a lot of times when we talk about agile, a lot of people have this myth that, okay, their role might not be relevant anymore. They would not have any job security kind of thing. But with Kanban, nothing changes. It is whatever process you follow, create a workflow of that process and start from there. Put it on a board and just start from there. Okay, encourage the act of leadership at all levels. Now, encouraging the act of leadership here does not mean that everyone becomes a leader, but everyone becomes the leader in their act, which means that there could be a time when one of the person in the team might be rigid to bring in change, or might not be inclined to what as a team you want to do, right? So take that mature lead and, you know uh, try to show them the benefit, and take a right way of persuading them to something new, try something new. It could also mean that probably you know that this is the right way of doing it, but since somebody has resistance towards it, rather than just persuading that person, or maybe just wanting to that person to do it, maybe you might want to say, okay, let's try your way, and give that person an opportunity to learn from their failure, right? Even that's an act of a leadership. So a lot of times you will have to understand what kind of a team you have, and how can they understand things better. You don't have to control and command them, but this change needs to come from within. So you need to understand that, and basis that you need to act. So these are the four basic principles on which Kanban functions. Any questions here?
Hi Suchi, this is Shweta again. So in like in Scrum we have different roles. So in Kanban also we have different roles, or some roles defined, or it is like whatever is there we can we can have it, and we can just create the board for visualization.
See, as you mature down in Kanban, from a Kanban maturity point of view, at level 4 and level 5, yes, we do introduce roles. But to begin with, the proto Kanban and the first stage of Kanban to implement the system of improvement, to bring in that evolutionary change, you don't need to have roles defined. It's
Okay.
not the first step.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other question?
Hi, Rajiv here. Actually, how many stages are there? As you told for the role implementation also.
Stages of what?
So you told that there are stage of 3 or 4 some
No, no, no.
role
So
implementation.
there are
Yeah.
no stages as in defined, but there are levels of improvement. Typically, we talk about 5 levels of improvement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I was talking about. Okay. Let's move ahead. Okay. Okay, now since we just spoke about the Kanban principles, there are 6 core practices that make Kanban successful. First, the first basic practice that we need to do is your Kanban board should help you visualize things. It should not, a lot of times even when we are using Jira on in the typical Scrum way, or maybe any VSTS or Azure DevOps kind of a tools, what happens is we create the stories and we forget about it in the backlogs. But on the Kanban board, bring only those stories which are immediate, which are of highest priority, and make them so visual. Don't clutter your boards, right? Only clean your boards. If you feel this is not needed, clean it, remove it. So make sure all the stories, all the features, all the epics that you have on your board are visible to everyone, and you can see who is working on what. Limit work in progress. Stop, start finishing. A lot of times what happens is all of us, when I say that, we all of us have a habit of picking up a work, starting it and leaving it midway. The basic idea of limiting work in progress is that we stop doing it. Now if I have a limit of 2 things, I will not pick up a third thing till I have done at least one of them, right? So that bars us from picking up a thing and leaving it midway. So if I have a limit, otherwise what happens, we pick up a work, we do this half, leave it, do this something half, leave it. But if we have limit work in progress limit defined, we will have to complete one work before we pick up the next work. So for example, team's work in progress limit is 4. Team cannot pick up any other work till one of the items from the 4 items that we are working on moves to the next stage, right? You cannot bring fifth item, it has to be always 4. Okay. Manage flow. You should understand, a lot of times we don't even understand the typical process our projects follow. So for example, a lot of the team members don't understand the approval processes, from where the requirements are going, what are the quality checks. So we need to understand our flow. We need to understand if we are stuck somewhere, who can help us get that resolution, right? So we need to manage a flow and make sure there are no bottlenecks. Clear? Next is make policies explicit. Now we need to define entry and exit criteria. So for example, I will not pick up any work request till the time I have a budgetary approval, or probably I have an approval from a manager. You would have experienced this in your day-to-day working life. Lot of time we start working on it and later we realize that, oh, iska to approval hi nahi aaya tha. We had not got the approval for that work. Okay. So define these kind of policies, which is your entry criteria, exit criteria, and basis that policies, stick to it. If you stick to those policies, you are making sure the quality parameters are being met, right? One of the typical policy which I know in my experience, a lot of people break is, they do not read the acceptance criteria of the requirement. And let's say there are 5 acceptance criteria, they will skip they will only read 4 acceptance criteria and skip one of the acceptance criteria. So probably we can define one of the policies that people need to mark done against all acceptance criterias. So because obviously before you will write done, you will read all the acceptance criterias, right?
Suchi, one question in policies. In Kanban board, do we have any place to write these kind of policies, or it will be attached with the user stories, or like how do
Uh,
we maintain?
okay, let me go back. Okay, so if you see in this Kanban board, if I would not have had team 3, so here I can define the entry exit criteria. So the last column can be used to, you can create a column where you can define the entry criteria and the exit criteria. The intent is to make things visible. Don't leave anything that this is understood. Yeah. Okay. Next is establish feedback loops. Have a way where you can take continuous feedback from your customer. If there is a retrospective which is needed, have a time defined where you conduct your retrospective. Have a strict time frame defined to replenish your to-do list as well. Okay, so these are all your feedback loops. Improve collaboratively. You cannot have a Kanban board which is used by one team and expect that that Kanban board will fit in your team as is, because every team has their own processes. And as you even create the Kanban board from your own process or on your own workflow, it will improve as you move ahead. It cannot be same as is as you move, and cannot stay the same way. If it is same for at least a month, then there is something wrong going on. You are not improving the, and you are not, your Kanban board needs something. So intent of Kanban and making things visual is to identify the problems which you need to fix as a team. Okay, so these are
Hi,
six.
Rajiv. Actually, one question, that is, you were telling of the fifth point, that is an established feedback loop, right? Means you were telling about feedback from whom? Customer, stakeholder, or
Everybody,
internal feedback kind of thing.
everybody, if you are doing a feedback for the quality of work, that it will be with customer. If you are doing a feedback for how you want to improve your Kanban process or maybe your workflow, it will be with the team. It can be anything. Or probably even your management can have a feedback. So for example, your management might feel that this board is not visual enough, or they want to see something extra on the board. So there can be multiple feedbacks that you can seek. Something similar to what Agile says. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Moving ahead. Any other question? Okay, moving ahead. So, how Kanban works? So, Kanban always works from left to right, but we always visualize the progress from right to left, right? So, okay, a question to you. How do you analyze that your agile processes are working, your agile implementation is working? How do you judge that it is working? Anyone?
Depending
Uh,
upon your customer
Incremental.
satisfaction and your um, I mean, the moment your refinement processes or the retrospection with respect to the incremental value of the product goes down, and you have a customer satisfaction.
Right. What makes your customer satisfied?
A small product delivery and like counting of the story points, maybe.
Product delivery eventually, right? If he's getting a product delivered, his work is being done
Done.
eventually. So done, the last column defines the amount of work and success of even the Kanban. So when you start reading your Kanban board, you see what is the amount of work being done. If the amount of this done column is empty and it is not being done, this means there is something going wrong in the system, right? So for you to say that things are working and are moving ahead, you should have work done, right? Agreed?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Right, so this is why your product flow or the workflow will happen from left to right, but the actual progress will be shown from right to left. So if there is no work done, you will see, can I expect a work done in some time? Is there any deployment pending? No, there is no deployment pending. Probably the work is in the testing field, testing area. Oh yes, work is there in the testing area. So probably, okay, I can speed up the testing and align more resources for testing. I don't, or in case if I would not have had any work in the testing, maybe code review is pending. Okay, testing cannot be done because somebody is absent, somebody is on leave, and code reviews have not happened. So probably you can engage somebody for code review, or maybe you can make a policy that okay, let's do the testing first, and since that person is not available, code review will happen later. Though this is not the right way, but just as an exceptional, you might want to create a policy. Maybe somebody is not well.
Uh, Suchi, this is Karthik here. I have one question. I understood this flow of the Kanban moment, right? Especially the task, but this is the analytical based projects where we don't have this, deployment code reviews and all, wherein we will be having a
Process.
hypothesis.
So obviously, even in the analytics project, you would have your workflow. So for example, the requirement comes, then probably basics that requirement, you would be doing certain analytical data extraction. Basis the data extraction, you would be creating the reports, then you will be analyzing the reports and finally submitting the analysis of the report. Let's assume this is a hypothetical workflow that you follow. That becomes your Kanban columns.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
got it. Yeah.
got it. Any other question on this, how Kanban works?
Just to add one point to that last question. See,
Mhm.
basically, Agile and Kanban, Scrum, etc. All these are only apt, where you have changing requirements coming in. Okay, like scope of requirements to change is much higher. If you're looking at a process where Suchi said, freezing, hiring, etc. These are not dynamically changing. These are okay. You can definitely just for highlighting the columns. Yeah, she said you can have these columns placed, but then it is not a area where you really need to look at Agile or Scrum or Kanban. So that is why we talk about development, and because if you look at the traditional waterfall model, you're looking at 8 to 9 months of implementation, and in between, if any requirements come, they go into a CR, and that is the only reason why Agile is so successful today, because we are looking at changing requirements that come in between your cycle, and you pick it up, and then you say, okay, let me add it to the ongoing sprint, and start developing it. So that is where you should think of. I mean, that is how you need to understand the value of Agile, actually.
See, agile or no agile, right? Kanban fits in everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, I totally
Like
agree. I'm
how
not saying no. All I'm saying is, the more value of Kanban and Agile comes into those kind of scenarios where you have requirements which are changing and dynamic.
And Suchi, sorry, one more question. I'm sorry if it has been already answered. Uh, how the difference of having a Scrum board compared to the Kanban board in terms for a Scrum team? I mean the sprints. I hope my question is clear, right?
Yeah. So basically, if even if you're doing a Kanban Scrum, right? Kanban will help you, visualize what you are doing. So for example, in your Scrum, you will create your sprint backlog. That
Yeah.
becomes your to do, right? For develop, you will undergo typical process, let's assume you will undergo these 4 stages only: development, code review, testing, deployment. Now, in Scrum, we talk about a cross-functional team. When the testing, actual testing needs to happen, there is still, when development is happening, there is still some work the testing team is doing. Testing professional individual is doing. He's creating scripts. He's writing test scenarios, right? He's probably so those are the sub tasks that the team will do. So those are the things that will start to flow. For the deployment team, they could might be working on some automation scripts. It's not that even as a part of Scrum, till the development is happening, testing person is sitting idle. It's not
Yeah,
like that, right?
got it.
You still
So
have work. You would have, you can either further, you can also have a Kanban board with your tasks linked to the stories.
got it, got it. Yeah, so from the links of it, right? I mean, likes of it. If I'm running on a analytical project, which board would be a preferable one? Will it be an Kanban or it would be an Scrum board?
I am a Kanban lover any which ways. So I will always prefer Kanban because what I feel is Scrum board still has an uh, scope where uh, you can where where you still beat visualization, because
Mm-hmm.
once visualization goes away, anything starts to happen under the table. Your perspective of implementing agile, or maybe getting things done faster, you beat that purpose.
Okay, okay, got it, got it. And the ceremonies will be same or it would be different for Kanban? I mean, to
you
follow
can
Kanban.
you can start with whatever you are doing right now. Even if you are a waterfall team, just implement Kanban to get things done, and you're sorted, whatever
Got it.
ceremonies. Okay,
Thanks. Suchit. Yeah.
let's move ahead.
Suchi, 1 second. So what does
Um,
it mean that reverse arrow in the top red color mark?
Okay, so it says that pull signal will come from code review to the testing. Testing can only pull work from code review. Deployment will pull work from testing.
Okay, there should be a sequence, right? A reverse sequence also the same.
Yeah, yeah. So this is in sequence. Code review will only happen after development is done, right? That's a sequence. That's your flow.
But here, Ruchi, see, when we testing, okay, I'm sorry. Can I proceed? So Ruchi, while my testing, okay, the development team or the code is not met my acceptance criteria. Okay, the development team is missed some piece of code or the piece of requirement.
Mhm.
So that scenario, there is no point of give back to code review. That should be go in the development again. So can we
But
jump?
okay, let me ask you a question here. There is a catch in your question. Why do you think after development, if you have defined a policy of doing a unit testing and probably making sure that there is a checklist kind of a thing where developer confirms that all the acceptance criteria have met and the code review has also happened, after even these kind of checks there will be still a miss at the testing level? Small
Yeah,
bugs I
sometimes.
still
no,
understand.
there can be a case, but yeah, in that case, I can answer it like new bugs will be created, which will again go into the development, and that particular ticket will be in the testing phase itself, like on that area. It won't be marked as done, it will be in progress.
No, in that case, so for example, if a story has come to down to a testing lane, then the story stays here, but the defect goes back to the development stream. It's
Yes,
a
yes, that's what.
yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, how does the Kanban will work for the safe agile implementation where we have the release planning as well? Like the deployment we are doing, but sometimes we do a release kind of plan where we want
Safe,
to
safe,
deploy.
safe has safe's backbone relies completely on Kanban. Without Kanban, you cannot implement safe.
But then, can you give me a brief introduction or idea, like how we will be doing the release planning.
I
Once
would
we
not
are doing the
give
deployment, then how release
I
will be
cannot
done.
do that right now because, in interest of time, and obviously, given we have a lot of people on the call, we have a training coming up. Probably we can take this up later, or maybe you can reach out to StarAgile team for your queries. But I will not be, because this is a long answer, and I will honestly not be taken cannot take this question. But just to give you a brief idea, for
Mm-hmm.
safe to work, it needs Kanban. Safe cannot, even release planning cannot happen without Kanban. Just go back to the safe diagram, safe framework, you will get that answer. If you look at it, it says Kanban at every stage.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Okay. Moving ahead. Now, basic difference between Kanban uh, and Scrum. As I told you, Kanban has roles, but to begin implementation of Kanban, you don't need any predefined role. But in case of Scrum, you cannot implement Scrum till the time you have the roles of Scrum Master, Product Owner, Team defined. Okay. Due dates, Kanban usually is not time boxed, whereas Scrum is time boxed to your sprints. Kanban has a cycle kind of a funda where it says that every 10 days we'll go back and do probably a sprint retrospective, not a sprint retrospective, but a retrospective, or probably we look into our to-do list. But as such, it is not time boxed. It uses a pull system. Even Scrum uses the pull system, but what happens is a lot of times within the Scrum, the wish list of the management also comes into picture. So for example, all of a sudden my manager wants me to do something. uh, we end up picking up and we end up overstretching it ourselves. But in Kanban, because the workload is visible on the board, we still have the privilege of saying that I already have so much work on my plate, prioritize the work for me. Kanban gives you that kind of a power.
No, but Suchit, even in Scrum we have that, right? Like before we start the sprint, and if things come up, like some ad hoc request came from the business, we can still argue with the business, saying that uh, the things are already been in place because we committed the goals, and we will not be having any capacity to accommodate the new ad hoc request, right? Hello.
Yeah, you do that, but what happens also is, yeah, so what I'm saying is it does happen, but what also happens is, because your management cannot see the work, right?
Mhm.
So it becomes a effort to convince them. But in the case of Kanban, since everything is visible on the board, you don't need to convince them. You can just tell them that look at this board and I have so much of work. In Scrum, there is nothing where you have something, just on your face, that this is what I am all working on, unless you are using a Kanban board within the Scrum.
Okay. Right.
We do have the sprint reports, right?
Right, but you generate your sprint reports after the sprint is over. I am talking within the
No, no,
sprint.
no, no. The sprint report, it gets created as soon as the Scrum
No, I think
sprint gets started.
when you say sprint reports, I think she might be referring to the burndown charts, because these burndown charts are like day-to-day reports, right? Wherein we show
No,
how
in
much.
Jira there is one keyword itself, sprint report, where it tell you whatever things are in progress, issues that have been completed in progress
Yeah, but
or
not
removed
everyone is
from
on
the
Jira,
sprint. But
right? But how
very
many people use Jira
commonly,
is also the question, no?
But this burndown will do that same, Sujitra. I mean, like in burndown, every day if you can just go to see there, right? It will show how much work is left in the sprint and how much commitment you made, and where. I mean, it
Okay,
basically
so
shows a graph in.
I'll park this question because I don't have a mechanism to show you the power of Kanban. But believe me, the visibility that Kanban will bring to your system, your management will stop asking you for all such reports.
Mm.
right? Lot of times I can vouch on this 100%. All of you have cribbed in your life that I have more work and the other person is sitting idle. Every one of you would have cribbed. Most of you before joining this webinar would have also cribbed about it. Kanban will take away that feeling as well, because it will make sure work is evenly distributed. If you have not cribbed about it ever, then that's a separate story. You and me need to speak offline. But if you are doing that, that means that your Scrum is not bringing that level of visibility what I am talking about. Shweta, you have a question.
Yeah, Suchi. I actually in during the process, during the development, say we also doing lot of ad hoc work, like some estimation or some other things, some defects or maybe like that. So usually we miss all these things in Scrum. So in Kanban, can we create these items and show it in the board?
Yes, yes, of course. Because in that case, that's what now, if you, let's say you initially planned in your to do, you had planned to do only 6 items, and all of a sudden there are 4 ad hoc works. You don't need to tell your management about it. Your management will get to see that okay, there were only 6, now there are 10. There is an ad hoc work. That's where team's time is going.
So if the VIP limit is like 6 or 7 only, and still we are getting a doc work, then can we add that?
Yes, in that case, you should go back and tell your management, show your management, see, this is the amount of ad hoc work we get. Probably you will have to reprioritize all this for us.
Okay.
Yeah. That was the next point, modification and changes, where uh, Kanban brings in so much visibility, where the ad hoc work, if it are all it is coming, your management starts to get the visibility, and they start to acknowledge where, because a lot of time as a leader we keep cribbing, we don't know what is our team doing. Where is this so much time? We don't realize that there is so much ad hoc work which keeps on going in their plate. Probably, let's say, even to implement something small, they might get stuck, which was not expected, right? Even that's an ad hoc work, right? So it, Kanban has answers to even those questions. Measurement of a productivity, obviously, when you're giving a visibility to your team on who is doing what and how overloaded you are, your productivity gets visible. And Kanban can be used in any kind of a project, in any vertical, in any field. So as I told you, I have done Kanban implementation for sales and marketing, hiring, to development projects, to support projects, even to the product development. Whereas Scrum, you cannot take it outside IT industry. Within the IT development implementation, Scrum cannot work, does not work for HR or probably finance kind of a mode. So it Kanban fits in anywhere. Okay. Um,
Suchi, one question. Suchi, I'm sorry, the previous slide. As you said, it's visibility. I thoroughly understand. Okay, we are in the same roof, like same building or same location. It is fine. Our management will understand based on that whatever we present in the board. So you just imagine, the customer point of view. They are asking some scenario like what is the capacity of particular developer or particular team. Can you give a little more idea so that we will follow?
you can create Kanban in your Jira. There are certain Kanban freeware tools as well available, for example, Trello. And then paid versions of Kanbanize and Digite also available. But for, I think, 5 people team, you can use the free version of the Kanban as well. So you can create Kanban wherever you want. Even in Jira, you can use create Kanban boards in even your Azure DevOps for distributed teams. Obviously, today is a time of distributed teams only, given we are all working from home. So you can implement Kanban in whatever tool you want.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So now Kanban helps. I will read one of the benefit, and probably if you can, one of you can help me elaborate it. Kanban takes information that typically would be communicated via words and turns it into a brain candy. What do you think it means? We just spoke about it in the last slide. Anyone wants to explain?
Is it kind of, I mean, in terms of a visibility of the work?
Yes, so we just spoke that a lot of times we have to, fight with our management, convince them on where the time is going, how you are doing, why so much of ad hoc work. So it takes away all those communication via words, but it just presents that information straight on the face. So you save a lot of time doing that, and you don't have to convince anybody on amount of work you are doing and your productivity. Moving next, by turning all your to-dos into the cards on a board, Kanban helps to clarify what's important, helping you to stay focused on the highest priority work. Anybody who wants to explain this?
Like you are creating cards for all the items, and then you are picking the highest priority items and focusing only on the highest priority items, like maintaining the WIP also.
Absolutely. When you are implementing a WIP, obviously you would pick up only those things which are immediately which needs to be immediately delivered and are of utmost priority. Right? Third point, it provides a shared space where everyone involved in a piece of work can go to find the most up to date information. Anyone?
You don't need to send reports to your management. You can just give the Jira link and that's it. You're done.
Yeah, or maybe uh, as a tester, I would know what is undergoing code review and what will come to me for testing. So I should prioritize and write the test cases for those things first. So I know what is coming, when rather than going ahead and asking people what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, when can I expect it, I can just go back to the board and see, right, when can I
Yeah.
expect what is coming to me, what is coming my way. It kind of makes you an independent entity as well. Got it?
Uh, yeah. Suchi, one
Yep.
question. Uh,
Yeah.
like for the cards, do we maintain some kind of time is spent on the card, sort of like how much time it took to complete the card?
Yeah, aging. Yes.
Yeah,
Cumulative
aging, right?
growth. Yes, we do that.
Okay.
This is done using lead time, cycle times.
So it's automatic, or we need to do it manually?
Uh, Depending on the tool that you are doing, if you are using a typical Kanban tool like Digite or Kanbanize, it is done automatically. But if you are
Okay.
using a physical board in your office or in a course, some location, then you have to
Okay.
do it manually. Jira doesn't have a capability to do it. You
Okay.
can create a customized field there within Jira, start date and end date, and that's how you can then calculate. But it will not then give you information of wait times of the.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So rather than me speaking about it, how do you think Kanban is reshaping the future of project management? I think to begin, just to give one answer, it is taking away control and command in every possible way and making sure everyone is involved as part of a team and focused on continuous delivery. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. And making people efficient. Obviously, when you are aligned towards a delivery, you are not, nobody is coming on your head and asking you what, when, and where, you are more focused towards the work and you are more efficient. And as a project managers, if you're using Kanban, you are not in a, you are not doing a thankless job where people hate you, because obviously you are checking the status of the work. You are getting, you are just maintaining the Kanban board and you're getting every answer to your question, right? So it makes project management easy. With me so far? Okay. Obviously, since it focuses on data analytics, because you can show what is the work that you as a team you guys have delivered. Because as I told you in the previous slides, Kanban talks says that if work is not done, the work you guys are not doing anything. So it talks more about the done field over anything else. So if the work is getting delivered, the done column is filled with a lot of work. This means that as a team you guys are delivering and you guys are working efficiently. Got it? Guys, with me? So it says that Kanban also becomes the non-intimidating approach of bringing in any kind of a change and improving the processes, because obviously you are not bringing the change as in change. It is self-induced change. You're starting from where you were, unlike Scrum. Okay. Job trends of so this is from IT jobs, and over a period we have realized that people who are good at Kanban, since they are into non-intimidating way of working and they are not doing a micromanagement kind of a thing, uh, they are more liked and they are more likely to be sustaining in a better job, and even the pay scale for these kind of people are more as compared to others, right? And
Suchin, I have one question. What is the adoption? I mean, in terms of a developer, right? How easy for the developers to adopt this Kanban in terms of comparing with the Scrum way of doing?
what do you mean by developer?
Ease of adoption of this Kanban method of working.
So there is no change coming in for him. It's just that the work is becoming more visual. So in my experience, it is always more easier.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Over to you. If we'll take more questions, there is a poll coming up. So we'll do more. We'll take more questions after this poll. Can you just please answer these questions? They must be on your screen now. Guys, please help us finish this poll so that we can take Q&A.
Yeah, I'm done. Suchita, you just go back to previous slide.
Yeah, just give us some time. Let me, I will go
Yeah,
back to.
no problem.
I think we got the response, ma'am. I'm just closing the poll. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, this slide.
Previous. Yeah, what is that, sir? It is 3M and certified Scrum Master 1M. No, the next one. Salary part.
Yeah, don't go by the salary that if I have, this is something which we have picked up from payscale.com. So don't get emotional with the figures, please. But yes, having said
Okay.
that, my personal experience and since I have trained so many people now, they are more better off after they have picked up Kanban, because you know they can fit in anywhere, right? So for example, even for me as a coach, if I have to go, I just don't look into a coaching assignment only from an IT service industry. I have done it, like even manufacturing startups, I fit in anywhere because I know that I would be able to bring in and add value to them. But if you're a Scrum master and only focused on a typical way of agile, uh, you are stuck to what it is. And overall, Kanban adds to a bigger way of looking at things. So just don't go by these numbers, please. These are just honestly something to attract, but uh, Kanban, believe me, is a great way of looking at things and implementing a better project management. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other question?
So for Kanban, Kapil here, for the Kanban, which is the certification has to be done? Like,
This is your answer. These are the certifications by Kanban Training Institute, Lean Kanban.
okay, okay.
Any other question?
And it is also the exam pattern. Is there any exam?
No,
And when
not
the exam
like,
is
no, it's not
just
like
like it don't have an exam.
no, it doesn't have. Any other questions? Because we are running out of time otherwise.
Yeah. So now my question is like, see, we are into Scrum, so like, I'm working in Scrum methodologically for 5 years. So how the transformation will happen as a Kanban specialist? Like,
See, for you, I think the only thing that you can do is while implementing a Scrum, you can introduce a Kanban board and in a stealth mode rather than just saying ki will do Kanban, Kanban, Kanban. Just implement a Kanban board, understand the workflow, and implement a Kanban board in a stealth mode, and eventually move your team from Scrum to Kanban. Because once they will start seeing the benefit, they will ask you yourself. Don't tell them that let's do this change. It's always better to start in a stealth mode, show them certain benefits, and then move on.
okay, okay.
Any other question before we close?
So like Scrum, we follow different ceremonies. So so Kanban suggest any ceremonies of such kind, or and
Yes.
are there any
As you
matrices for it,
mature,
metrics for it?
as you mature, you can introduce ceremonies, but to begin with, whatever you are doing, you can continue doing that.
And there is no Scrum Master as such in Kanban, right? There is nothing called as Kanban Master as such.
These are not additional stories in terms of scope.
Okay.
And in addition to last question, is there any? There seems there is no role for the product owner kind of thing also, right?
No.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Suchi.
Yeah. Passing on to StarAgile team, do we have anything else on the agenda? Any questions, any feedback, or anything?
No, ma'am. Thank you so much. Like, no, we're good right now. If participants are having no questions, we can close the webinar now. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know whether this is the right question for the StarAgile team or Suchi. The recording will be shared, right?
Yes, sir. The recording will be shared to you by tomorrow.
Okay, fine. Thanks.
Okay, thank you guys. My name is Shuchi Singla. In case you have anything, you can reach out to me directly or to the StarAgile team, whatever.
Thank you so much, everyone, to joining the session. Thank you, Suchi ma'am. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks, Suchi and StarAgile team.